Once upon a time, there was a president whose name was Donald Trump. He would seemingly do whatever he wanted, and the GOP would quietly fall in line, and if they didn't, they'd have to face Trump's public wrath. Well, now we have a President Biden who may be following the exact same tactics. Biden has insisted that he's staying in the race. He's called for Democratic defectors who are elites and publicly urging them to stop their speculation. But is it working? Joining us now to discuss all this is Hill's senior correspondent, Amie Parnes. Amie, thanks so much for joining us.
Of course, happy to be here.
So at the state of the race right now, you're seeing Democrats kind of sending mixed messaging. On one half, you're seeing them say, Biden's fine, he should go ahead and run. And privately, you're hearing the opposite. What's your stance?
So I've been talking to a million people these days, as you might imagine. I'm working the phones constantly, and the sense I get from most Democrats is they are some of them are resigned to the fact that Biden is in this and they need to get behind him. But some of them, no one seems happy about it, is the bottom line. I talked to one big Democratic bundler yesterday who was basically making that case and saying, it is what it is right now. Like, we were not going to be able to get him out unless someone like President Obama comes forward, or Nancy Pelosi, as we saw this morning, or Jim Clyburn. And so they're almost, resigned to the fact. They're waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's a sense of everything being in limbo right now, and that's kind of not where you want to be heading into the Republican convention, when you should be fighting the opposition during that week.
I think there was a clear energy effort underway to replace Biden a few days ago, but hasn't he cleared that up by defiantly saying he will not exit the race? And at some point, I'm wondering if you're hearing from members of Congress, Democrats, who are they fearful of crossing a president who is utterly steadfastly committed to staying in this job?
That's the thing. I think he's had a better week, but I think a lot of people are saying, where was this guy last week? We should have seen a lot more of this energy and this effort. He should have been calling into shows. He should have been writing the letter then, to members of Congress. And that's fair. A lot of people think that what happened on the heels of the debate is almost worse than the debate. And so I think you're hearing a lot of this going in. And the fact is that it still remains to be seen. I think, like I said, a lot of people are just waiting to see what happens now. But there isn't a sense of, unity going into this. They know their convention is, 5-6 weeks away, and there is no resolution. And that's sort of not where you want to be as a party. And I think that continues going in the next month. And so I think they're happy to see a stronger, more resilient Biden, a defiant Biden, but they're also almost waiting to see what happens next. I think tomorrow's press conference will be another moment, all eyes on Biden, to watch. And I think they're waiting for those moments to see if he can kind of clear these hurdles.
Hakeem Jeffries was expecting to be the next Speaker of the House. Now, when you look at poll data, it looks like Democrats could lose, potentially 20 plus seats. What did Democrats plan to do in terms of messaging moving forward?
What people are trying to figure out right now. I think there is this consternation going forward. I think they're looking at the Cook report and seeing that there is trouble in a lot of these districts, a lot of these states. Now, a lot of solid blue states are leaning Democratic states. This is worrisome to a lot of people. And on the heels of the debate, I kept hearing two things. It was polling, and it was, what would happen to these down ballots, to these down ballot races, and whether people like Hakeem Jeffries would weigh in and want to change course. And so I think a lot of that is sort of still kind of in consideration. I think that's why you're seeing people like Pelosi today come forward, because clearly she's looking at what other people are looking at and kind of drawing conclusions that maybe this isn't the right decision going forward, even though the president is very defiant, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that clip earlier in the show. You know, Pelosi asked should he be the candidate? And she says, well, he needs to make that decision. To repeat myself, he has made that decision. It's been made. He's reiterated it. He's given no indication that any other decision is even conceivable or possible. So what are we to make of a kind of non-answer, her anticipating some future decision-making happening? Is there actually additional decision-making going on? Do we have any reason to think, any evidence that behind closed doors, Joe Biden is meeting with anyone besides Jill Biden and Hunter Biden, giving any different indication that he might step aside? Not that I can tell.
I mean, that's the thing. And I think that, he referred to the Lord Almighty. And a lot of my sources joke that the Lord Almighty is a combination of Pelosi, Clyburn, Obama, and Jeffries, maybe Schumer. But I think that a lot of people think that Schumer isn't persuasive enough in this moment. So I think, I think that this conversation behind the scenes is obviously going to keep going. You're seeing the president act defiant, do what he needs to do to try to rally the troops. But I think, as the weeks go by, as the days go by, I think a lot of Democrats want to course correct right now. They think that this is the time to kind of seize the opportunity, that he has another few days to kind of rectify the situation. And if he doesn't, that's when you're going to see more calls. You'll see Pelosi take a stance. She's very smart and calculating in these moments. She knows exactly what she's saying. So this was a really big deal for her to come out and say what she said today, and kind of an indicator that more is to come, I think, behind the scenes, and that, people like Clyburn are kind of holding their cards close to the vest, but there remains to be a lot to be seen. I've spoken to people that are close to Obama. Obama put out this very public statement, obviously supporting his vice president, but he also is not happy about where this is going. And so I think you're going to continue to see these discussions happen, much to, I don't think President Biden will be happy about this. I think he's trying to shut it down, but I don't think you can effectively shut it down altogether.
What do you make of the fact that the Democratic Congress people who have come out so far, the Adam Smiths, the Joe Manchins, have been moderates who have really called for Biden to step down? It's been the progressives who have really kind of been that firewall in terms of holding the wall and making sure that Biden doesn't have to step down so far.
And that's been one of the most surprising elements, I think, of this whole thing, that the president is getting support from progressives. But people like Seth Moulton, someone who he considers Biden a mentor. Biden campaigned for him on the campaign trail. These are people that are very close to him, who are coming out and saying that he should withdraw. And that's got to hurt in some ways. I know there aren't too many of them right now, but these are very much Biden's people. And so I think that if more of them come out, if more moderates come out, that makes almost a bigger statement about the path going forward. And I'm not convinced that this is over. I know that a lot of people, we've written that the tide has turned. And I think it's a minute by minute, hour by hour kind of story at this point. I think that a lot could change very quickly, even though the president is obviously defiant and wants to stay in this race. I think that he could start having conversations with people like Michael Bennett, who made a very rational case last night on CNN. If he has that conversation with him in person, I wonder if that starts to change his mind a little bit.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.